Hello, welcome everybody to today's Fireside Chat. This is from win-win to give, how you and your customers win when you give back. We're going to be exploring the power of giving back to your customers and their favorite charitable causes. So today's super exciting. We have some great experts from the e-commerce community. They're going to share their insight on what it means to create a give experience that will keep your customers engaged and feel confident in the positive impact that your brand is having. Today, our panelists are going to address some crucial questions, surrounding mission-driven brands, intentional social impact, charity alignment, and promoting genuine and authentic give-back initiatives. So let's bring someone to the stage. Let's welcome our very own from Friendbuy, Yvette Muller, our Enterprise Customer Success Manager. Hello, Yvette.
Hi, everybody. My name is Yvette Muller, and as Trevor said, I'm with the Friendbuy team, and Friendbuy helps online merchants power more sales and customers through referral and loyalty, and I'm super excited to be here today.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Also, we have from Beam, the head of sales and partnerships, Stan Rosenberg. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much, Trevor. No worries at all. My dad's Sam, so I get that all the time. I am our head of sales and partnerships here. And what we do at Beam is help brands drive LTV and reduce their reliance on discounting through social impact and giving back. So really excited for this conversation and glad to be here.
Yeah, excellent. We're super excited to have you as well. And then I feel like I spoiled this one a little bit, but coming from Rise.ai, we have the product manager, Sam Gosling. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Trevor. My name's Sam, like you said, a product manager at Rise. We're a all-in-one gift card and store credit management suite. We're looking to power merchants to essentially, give back and push more win-back strategies into their stores.
That is excellent. And I know everyone's super excited to hear from all three of you. We've got some great stuff lined up for today, but before we dive in, just a quick little note. Please dive into the comments, leave some questions and some comments for us, because at the end, we are going to be randomly selecting from one of the commenters or question leavers, someone that we will give a $100 gift card to. And in addition, we will be asking them for their favorite charity, because we will be donating $100 to that charity on their behalf. Super exciting stuff. So please dive in the chat. Let us know where you're from, any questions that you have as we go along. And if we have time, we're going to try to tackle as many of those at the end as we can. With that being said, I think we should just dive right in. How are you guys feeling? You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So I think the great question to begin with here is, why are mission-driven brands becoming so popular these days? What's going on here?
Yeah, I'm happy to start with this, Trevor. Certainly the insights that we've been seeing over at Beam is, especially since the pandemic, but this trend's been going on for some time, consumers want to do more than ever before to give back in their local communities. But at the same time, they're often really skeptical of different give back initiatives that brands have in place. There was a great study Salesforce recently did, showed that 70% of consumers are willing to spend more money with brands that give back, but 90% of those consumers are skeptical of those initiatives. It's one thing to turn a logo rainbow for pride. It's another thing to really stand behind those values. So right now, which I think is a really exciting opportunity for brands, doing good isn't just about feeling good. It's also imperative from a business standpoint. And I think Friendbuy and Rise definitely agree, for brands to really stand out in this increasingly competitive environment where the cost to acquire a customer has never been higher for many retailers today.
Yeah, absolutely. And echoing what Stan said, brands today want to get in front of their audience with more authenticity. So if they can go where their audience already is and already supporting and helping to leverage that and help them support those brands, it's just a win-win on both sides. They get in front of their potential ideal customer. The customer gets to see them interact and engage, and they feel good about making purchases or interacting with the brand.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think from my perspective, I'm a little bit, I guess, optimistic, maybe. I believe really that mission-driven brands today, there's sort of a push going towards it, just because individuals, more than just seeking financial success, are looking to actually push the businesses to have some sort of value, and it's become more acceptable in general in the field. They want to make more positive difference in the world and contribute to social and environmental challenges. And there's sort of become this environment that we're allowed to combine our passions, whether that's business or creating a positive impact.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, I feel like something that people are looking for. Like it's maybe even like a response to like all this time where you just have these giant corporations and they're the only options you have to buy from. And now with e-commerce, right, it's a lot more of a democratizing effect on the people who can produce this stuff for us. So it's sort of natural that like, yeah, we want to go out and find someone who supports the same beliefs that we have and that causes that we want to support. But it's kind of like a double edge here, right? Where like you want your brand to be like a social impact brand and to contribute, but also like you want it to be in a way that feels like authentic and in a way that is really consistent like with your brand voice. So I want to jump into our second question, which is how can brands be intentional with their social impact in a way that is consistent with their brand voice and mission?
I might jump in on that one. Just on that question, I think the first thing that popped into mind for me was actually a social initiative that we ran within my company, within Rise. During COVID, we called it in Hebrew Shchunati. It translates to my neighborhood. It was essentially we were looking for ideas to support local merchants that were severely impacted by lockdowns and restrictions. And we essentially came up with the idea that we wanted to digitize their offering and provide them online gift card services for free. And essentially how we came to this idea is we essentially took our team, and our team was the ones that obviously understand the brand and the mission and our voice the best. We all sat down in a room and decided, let's use our expertise, our knowledge, technology, any sort of thing that we actually have at our disposal to solve this issue. We ran a hackathon, asked people to volunteer time, and essentially we saw incredible impact from this initiative. We actually saw it copied in countries across the world, as far as Canada and New Zealand. So I think taking the people who know your brand the best, which is, I guess, the employees, is a good way to start.
Yeah, I think that's a great example that you have, Sam. Certainly another way that brands can really be intentional with their social impact is to really listen to their customers. So many customers today are giving back to causes. We encourage brands to look at customers' public profiles and see, are there certain organizations that they're really passionate about, that they're showing interest in? And what's really important is not just picking organizations that may align to what the customers want, but really providing transparency. When we think about intention and social impact, so many consumers today are skeptical. Are those dollars going to the CEO's salary? Are they doing it just for self-promotion and marketing gain? And sometimes brands have the best of intentions, but I think a lot of consumers come to this with more of a pessimistic lens around giving back than an optimistic lens sometimes. So anything that brands can really do to provide that transparency and that accountability, almost like the GoFundMe or the Kickstarter model, where you get those updates over time, that we've seen be a really great first step for brands to show their customers not only that they care, but there's real intention behind these giving programs. And it's not just something purely for self-gain.
Yeah, I love that. And it also like it makes me think about because not only like you want to believe that all of the brands have good intentions, but you also want to believe that all of the charities that they're working with have good intentions as well. You don't want to set yourself up in a situation where you're like, oh, we're huge backers of this charity, and then if something goes poorly, all of a sudden, maybe it looks so bad on you too. And I think it's a huge step here also that I want to make sure we cover, which is how do you go about identifying these charities that you want to support, and how do you do this to make sure that they align with your values and that they align with your customers' values? And what's this process here?
Yeah, if I can start out, I think that if a brand doesn't already know kind of where they're aligned and where they're naturally just tended to, they can take a survey of their current customers and find out, where do their customers already support? Where are they donating time? Where are they donating goods? Where are they donating money? I think one really great example of a brand kind of starting and already owning, who they are and what they support would be today, Beekman 1802. It's a company that sells basically, I call it luxury, cosmetics made out of goat milk. So you're talking lotions, creams, serums, all the wonderful stuff that helps our skin look healthy. But, ever since I saw them start selling their stuff on HSN, and they actually started backed as a brand from Oprah, they've always been proponents of equal opportunities for the community for LBGT. And so today with Pride Month, they had this whole, kind of post on Instagram that said, this is the brand that we're promoting. This is why. And it just felt like part of their story. And I think it was a great way to show transparency, authenticity, and then reinforcing with what they were doing today to give back to that organization.
Love that. I'll have to take a note on that goat milk for the skin.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. And just to add something, I think that you bring up a great point, especially with the part of this is why. Brands need to not only just support an organization, consumers want to know that story, that context behind it that the brand is trying to convey. Why does this cause really matter? And the more detail that a brand is willing to go through, whether it's something their employees support, their customers support, is very important to their sourcing and sustainability, is really key. There's a much greater resonance when there's a connection between what the brand wants and what the customers are looking for. It can't just be supporting one group. For it to really be effective, it needs to support both. And what I would add is I think there's a lot of companies that sometimes will, roll their wheels and spend months trying to figure out the perfect organization to support. Reality is, for many brands, that doesn't exist. So what we often recommend to partners is really lean into data. There's a great example of a brand that was evaluating our services that actually has their Instagram community, to share another Instagram example, every month vote on what causes they want the brand to support. Wow. And what this brand does is they donate 5% of each purchase to a brand that is chosen by their customer base, and have been talking to us about expanding it to giving an option of 3 to 4 brands that they could be supporting. And I think this is great because the data from your consumers tell you what causes resonate. Is it mental health or sustainability? Is it protecting the outdoors? And so many of our businesses are so data focused. I feel like in the impact space, there's such a huge opportunity to use data to create that match that simply a lot of brands aren't looking into or spending the effort on today. So that would definitely be a big recommendation, is brands are trying to align their values to support organizations that really matter.
I love that. I think that's a perspective that we don't hear very much, because I think a lot of times there's this gut feeling of I know what I want and what my customers want, but it's like Yvette was saying, get in the survey, at Stan was saying, get the data, get in there, and that way you can make sure you're actually aligned and that your message is going out to the right people. I think something also that we're seeing a lot of, especially right now, this is a kind of a hot debate, but we see a lot of brands who are really want to put up the image that they are a social impact brand, right? Especially during Pride Month, we see the rainbow logos everywhere. And it's been so long of it, people I think are a little bit more skeptical. And I know that's a trap that a lot of people want to avoid. So I want to throw this one out there, which is, so how, as a brand, how do I go about promoting this give back aspect of my business, but in a way that comes across as feeling a little bit more genuine and a little bit more authentic?
Yeah. I'll jump in first. I think it goes back to what we said, that, it needs to be something that you can tell a story with, either from your employees or your customers, and kind of showing hey, we're giving back to this organization that is supported by you all, and here's how we're also, doing that. But I think that the donation also needs to be in alignment with what the consumer expects, right? So if somebody buys a pair of socks and you're giving a pair of socks to an organization that needs clothes, that feels very authentic. It's reinforcing what the company stands for and what the brand stands for. And people know that when they're buying a pair of socks, they're actually donating on top of that to an organization.
Yeah, Yvette, you touched on something there at the beginning as well that I sort of wanted to dive into a little bit. I think if you're looking for authenticity, I think it very much has to start from within the company. Whether that's strong cultural values and the management and building the employees' trust. We have this idea that customers obviously, they see and they know and they very much feel the staff that they're interacting with. and that they can understand sort of the vibe and whether those, the employees are satisfied where they are. I think at the end of the day, a happy workforce can ultimately become like the brand's ultimate spokesperson sort of thing. Like we see brands at Rise that are using like some of our tools to gift for employee recognition programs. And we see the impact that creates within those companies. One of the examples that jumped to my head is Intuit, the software company that they're doing an education program. Essentially, as you complete courses within their within like seminars within the company, they're rewarded with store credit to essentially encourage them to continue investing in themselves. And I guess they're creating very authentic ambassadors by sort of promoting their internal staff and their employees.
So interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's such a good point. Like, it's with both sides too, right? Like, you can't really be saying you're this very equitable leaning brand, but your employees are, treated terribly, and people are going to see right through that, and that's a pretty scary situation. But speaking of scary situations, I want to pull us off to the side for one of my favorite sections that we do at every Fireside Chat. We like to call this Spooky Story Time. That will never get old to me. That always just makes me smile so much. But the whole point of this section is we're going to share some spooky stories about how this can go wrong, what not to do when we're thinking about how we're going to give back and how we're going to be like a social impact brand. So I always love hearing these. Someone want to throw one out there?
I can get started with one. So there was a brand that sold, say, medical supplies to like pediatricians, doctors, etc. And their average order is typically over $500. So yeah, it's kind of it's a big ticket item, right? It's not like high consideration like furniture, but I mean, if you're buying some kind of equipment for your medical office, you're going to think about quality and all those things. And this brand wanted to preserve margin. Understandably, they didn't want to give a discount. But they said basically, for every purchase of X, we'll give $5 to this charity. And it backfired because $5 for an average purchase of over 500 is like a 1% donation. And it really didn't resonate to what the consumer was going to spend versus what they were going to give. And to me, it really stood out because the value of what they were giving was actually essentially a checkup to somebody. So it was like a reimbursement to, offer underprivileged people a checkup, for blood pressure or whatever. So I think if they could even just have shifted the message from a $5 donation to a free checkup, the perceived value of what they were donating would have, been a huge, win on both sides. And people wouldn't have been like, why am I going to spend $500 to donate $5?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot better framing to be like, oh, give someone a checkup instead of being like, we're going to donate a penny for every dollar you spend. Exactly. Yeah, a little bit better. Exactly.
Yeah. So the message matters, right? It's not just about the donation, but how you message it and how you weave that through with the consistency is important.
Love that. Who else wants to jump in here? Anyone else have one?
I've actually a story with a similar message. It's connected to what I was mentioning before, the My Neighborhood program that we ran within Rise, essentially helping local businesses during COVID to have gift cards online. And as one of the company's vacation gifts, they essentially gave all of us, all the employees, gift cards to the My Neighborhood program so that we could go use them at local merchants. So 4 of us actually decided to go down to one of the local cafes for a sit-down lunch in the middle of the day. We knew they were coming in with our gift cards. We ordered a whole table of food. We're enjoying it, knowing that we were able to use our gift cards, that we're helping local businesses. And it came time to actually pay. The waiter came over, and we very proudly announced we were going to use use these gift cards, not explaining that obviously that we were the company that organized them. And I guess to our disbelief, the waiter had no idea what we were talking about, didn't believe that there were gift cards that could be used at the cafe at all, had never heard of it. After he called the owner, it turned out that he actually hadn't been working at the cafe the day that they launched the program. So we actually had to help him. We went behind the counter and actually redeemed our gift cards ourselves. But I guess the same message here as Yvette is essentially the communication is very key, whether that's external to the customers, also within your own team, making sure that everyone knows exactly what's going on, is on board, everyone's sort of aligned and aware of what's happening is definitely crucial.
Yeah, no, you have to go and actually help them to use your gift card at some point. You're like, you know what, I'll just give you the $10 so we don't have to do this.
Yeah. And I was going to say, Sam, I guess there's no such thing as a free lunch. You had to work for it somehow.
So, get a drum sound queued up for our next
There you
one.
go. Exactly. And I'll share one from our end. And I think, Yvette, also, you bring up such a great point about perceived value. So much of what we've seen from the consumer psychology of giving is how it's framed up. What does $5 mean for a brand? It can mean a lot. It can mean a little. Same thing for the nonprofits. But if you can say funding a month of medical care or funding an appointment for a community in need, that really resonates. Consumers get really excited by that. But the flip side is there's a lot of brands out there that are partnering with some fairly large nonprofit organizations that haven't done the proper work to actually vet these partners before working together. So for my story, there is a very well-known military nonprofit that had partnerships with dozens of organizations, including Verizon, the NBA, many others, actually the NFL, excuse me. And this organization was actually accused of misappropriating funds. So they got these millions of dollars of corporate gifts, and the organization faced significant backlash where it really hampered both sales and reputation of these large corporate partners. So it's so great brands want to step in and do good. And you think of with charitable work and give back that everyone has the right intentions, and the majority absolutely do. But for organizations, it's a really great lesson to just take that extra work the same way in Sam's example, to make sure your staff is educated about the program, to make sure that you're really selecting the right organizations to support. You as a brand, who you select, the organizations you partner with, are reflective of who you are actually working with too. Seems small, but it's really important to tie that all together and set the stage.
Absolutely. Thank you all for those scary stories. I'm gonna be up all night now. I can feel it. So this has been a lot of fun so far, and I really love these like really feel good events that we get to do and like talk about this stuff. But there's kind of a harsh reality here that we all have to face, which is at the end of the day, these are businesses that we're trying to run, right? So how do you can't run your business when you're giving all of your money away unless you are like, even nonprofits, make money, right? So I think at the end of the day, like the biggest question is like, if we want to be doing this, how do we balance giving back to our customers, giving back to the charities that they support, but we still need to keep a strong margin, right? Like how do we keep our business going while we do this?
Yeah, it's such a great question you bring up, Trevor. One of the things that I'm really excited by from what we've seen from partners at Beam is often social impact programs are thought of as DE&I, ESG give back programs. What a lot of brands don't realize is impact is such a core sales driver, revenue driver, loyalty driver of the brand. So one of the biggest recommendations that I have for our brand partners is think about impact in a different way. Think about it as an incentive. The same way you would spend 1%, 5% off on a discount to bring a customer through, can you do that same thing with giving back? We've done a lot of studies for brands that show even if they just give a 1% donation, to Yvette's point, you have to frame it the right way to make sure that consumers understand the real outcome of it. That could be just as effective, if not more effective, for certain customers as an additional 5% discount. And so many brands today care about margin and profitability, social impact, because of the feel-good consumers get when they add that item to their cart, the guilt reduction, the higher share of wallet. This is actually driving sales for many brands in a way that's better than a discount. Our whole goal at Beam and what we tell brands is when you can get an ROI from your giving, that's a win-win, because then you could clearly show the value. And at the same time, you could start to get even more dollars allocated towards these incredible give back programs that you're doing. We were talking to the founder of a globally known footwear brand, and he was saying that one of the things that got him the most excited about partners like Beam, and definitely Friendbuy and Rise help with this too, is where he's able to show an ROI from the great work that he was already doing. The CFO was always like, this is just an added cost to our business that isn't paying off. So I can't give you more budget. In fact, I have to cut your budget in half. It's always the CFOs. Apologies if any of you are on the call here, but all kidding aside, it is just really important to make sure that you can tie value back to it, because if this is really ROI generative, that opens up a ton of opportunities from budget and testing perspective that brands often don't have today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing is, just even testing different offers and different strategies. So testing that 10, 15% discount to a consumer versus something that's comparable as a donation, and see which one not only performs better, but to Stan's point, has the ROI in the back end, because it's not just about that initial purchase. It's how often that customer comes back to support the brand. And again, if they know you're supporting something that they believe very passionately about and they want to continue supporting, they're going to continue to support the brand, because it's almost like doubling their efforts, because they're going to support the brand on their own, and then they're making a purchase that will also support the brand or the organization.
So it really is a win-win situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so we have the win-win, but we want to also talk about the give, right? So what is the give? It's giving back not only to what your customers support, but also let's talk about giving back to the customers themselves. So we talked about the ROI from giving to charities, but I also want to know, like, as far as giving back store credit and gift cards, how does that boost revenue for your brands when you're giving back directly to your customers?
This feels like my moment to shine here. I guess I'll start off with the gift card side. Try to keep it to a minimum, because I can obviously go into the many benefits that we have in terms of gift cards. But firstly, I think it's a super important channel to be able to utilize to boost sales. Essentially, it's something that can be added to your store that requires very little to no upkeep, and essentially brings in money into the store. Secondly, it's an essential tool for new user acquisition at basically no cost as well, which is even more important these days when acquisition cost is increasing so much. And finally, it drives upsell value. We see that the majority of gift card users is actually bringing in some sort of upsell into the store. In some cases, it can be up to 90% of the original gift card value of people coming in and spending out of their own pocket, but they're motivated to come back and actually make that purchase because they have that gift card to use. So there's a huge benefit there.
Yeah.
And if we're looking at gift cards as that way of bringing people into the store, you have the store credit side, which sort of centers around that brand loyalty and customer retention, which is obviously a big buzz at the moment. Again, going back to that acquisition costs. And look, store credit can sort of be it's an umbrella word for a lot of different activities, but in general, we're seeing stores run a lot of win-back campaigns to sort of incentivize customers to come back to their store.
Yeah.
We worked with the store Skims to build a returns and refund sort of methodology, essentially providing store credit for returns rather than refunding to cash, essentially preventing that revenue loss and preventing sort of the leaky bucket. And there's a lot of seasonal promotions. We saw Good American does a lot of promotions to specific collections or for seasonal things to sort of push through different ideas. I guess if there's one main takeaway for that side, both for store credit and gift cards, I think it's sort of ensuring there's a focus on that redemption side. That's one thing to give out the credit. It's another thing to obviously ensure that is being redeemed, and those customers are coming back into the store, and then there's the end of the continuation of that cycle there, which for us at Rise is obviously a big focus of our technology. We want to ensure that there, like Stan mentioned, there's that ROI, and that does come back full cycle.
Yeah. And just one quick comment there, Sam. I think you're spot on. The redemption piece is so huge. You want to make sure that consumers can actually interact with whether it's store credit, your referral program, your give backs. If it's something that's hidden on a sustainability page or an About Us page, it's not going to drive that same sales lift and get those consumers to add those additional products to add to their goal. So I think that's a great insight that you had there. I love that example from Good American and Skims. And I think it just highlights how you want to make sure consumers are actually participating in the store credit, in the friend referral, in the give back, versus just seeing it on site and not interacting as much.
You guys are so full of amazing information. This has absolutely been so much fun. I do have one final question I'm going to get to in just a moment. But I do want to just remind everyone to stick around at the end. We're going to try to squeeze in a couple community questions I saw come in. I know we're getting a little close on time, and after we do those community questions, we are going to pick a winner. So please hang in there. And this is also another one of my favorite parts, is because we've gone over so much, and it's really just everything from like brand authenticity to making sure your charities are also authentic, making sure your customers are feeling included and rewarded, and it's all of this great stuff to take in. But at the end of the day, if I force you to say one sentence, maybe two, whatever you have, what is your number one tip or takeaway from today's topic?
Sure. I'm happy to start. For me, it's to stretch that donation dollar by incorporating your impact throughout your marketing funnel. Don't just think about it as something that sits on your site and social, but rather, how can you incorporate impact into friend referrals, store credit, gifts, affiliates, influencers? The best way, I think we all agree, to show that ROI from your marketing, your give back programs, is to make sure you have as many touch points to tell that really consistent brand story. And there's organizations out there that are doing such great work to give back, but haven't effectively mentioned it and messaged it across all of the marketing. It's just like a discount. Think about every touch point you'd mention that. How can you find a way to tell that giving story and really bring it front and center?
Great point. I'm going to popcorn this one over. Yvette, do you want to give us your number one?
Sure, absolutely. So really, I mean, this is like any marketing strategy that you have to put effort into. I mean, it takes work to come across as authentic, and as Stan said, lay that foundation throughout the journey. And if anything, I think there's a higher level of expectation from your customers about the brands that you support and how you're carrying that through, that being thoughtful and really transparent with that communication is critical. So you need to think about it just like every other marketing strategy.
Huge. Yeah. And then Sam, what do you got for us?
Sure. So I think it was obviously mentioned as the theme here is coming through authentic and mission driven, should obviously be a central focus of when giving back. And I think for brands to really choose the right tools, the right technology that assists them and helps them create that meaningful impact and that meaningful connection with the customers and the communities that they're intending to work with is what I take away from this.
That is such a huge takeaway. We are just about at time. I do want to try to squeeze in one or two community questions, so feel free to dive on this one. But for brands that aren't mission driven today, but they want to be, what's the very first thing that they need to do? Any thoughts here? Tricky.
I don't know. I thought Stan had a really great point earlier where it's doing the research. There's so many free tools out there that allow you to do research on organizations that it's really, finding what your brand mission is and what could potentially align to that. And, outside of doing the research is just surveying your customers and seeing what they already support and does it align with what you have and what you need within the organization.
Thank you so much. I'm getting some notes from my producers that we are time to wrap. So I want to just take a moment and say thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And thank you, Yvette, Stan, and Sam, for joining us today. Keep your eye on your emails, everyone. We will be sending out the recording and notifying the winner to let you know about the gift card and to align with your charity. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. This has been so much fun. I wish I could just hang out with the three of you for the rest of the day, but I know we are all busy people in different time zones. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Keep your eye out. We'll have more Fireside Chats coming in the future. After that, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.